So good morning and thank you for tuning in. The objective of this video is to learn about blood circulation, blood components, and also blood diseases. Alright, so let us go straight to it. We will be learning about blood flow. Alright, so one of the most important things that we really need to understand is that the blood contains blood vessels. Alright, the veins and the arteries. The veins contain blood that flows to the heart, and the artery contains blood that flows away from the heart. Right. So in the next slide, you can see that there is the blue vessels, and then we've also got the red vessels. Right. The blue vessels means that the vessel is containing deoxygenated blood, and then the blood vessel, the red blood vessel contains oxygenated blood. Alright, so now let's look at these vessels. I'll talk of the superior vena cava. Alright, so the superior vena cava carries blood from the head, the neck, the chest, and the upper limbs to the heart, and then the inferior vena cava carries blood from the trunk and the lower limbs. And also, what you also need to understand that the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava carry blood into the right atrium, which is one of the 4 chambers of the heart. The heart does not only have 4 chambers, but then it also has 4 valves. All right. The reason why we have valves, it is because it keeps blood from flowing in different directions, or flowing backwards rather. It keeps the blood from flowing backwards. Yeah, that's the reason why there are valves. All right. So what happens is the blood enters the right atrium, right? The deoxygenated blood. Remember, we said blue vessel contains deoxygenated blood. So the deoxygenated blood comes from the heart through the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava into the right atrium, and then the blood then flows into the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. So now when the blood enters the right ventricle, it goes through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery. Remember, we also mentioned that an artery is a blood vessel that contains blood away from the heart. All right, so this blood is being transported to the lungs. Yeah, it is being transported to the lungs, where there is gaseous exchange, where the carbon dioxide is being exchanged to oxygen, so which means the blood will contain more oxygen. So after that, the blood that now contains the oxygen goes through the pulmonary vein. Remember, vein means blood that is being carried to the heart. All right, so it goes through the pulmonary vein into the left atrium, and then after the left atrium, it goes into the left ventricle, and then this blood then flows into the aorta. Aorta is the biggest chamber in the heart. So now this blood now flows in other parts of the body, supplying oxygen rich blood. So that is the flow of the blood. And now we're going to go into the next section, which is blood components. So as I mentioned, blood is carried throughout the body in blood vessels. And also we need to understand that blood is made up of fluid that carries different kinds of cells, such as the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. Now let's look at the red blood cells. The red blood cells, they produce oxygen and then they receive carbon dioxide. And then when we look at the white blood cells, they act as a protective barrier, like they protect us from the bacteria that come in our bodies and act as an immune system. And then we also have the platelets. Platelets act as a bandage inside our bodies, making sure that the blood does not flow outside of the blood vessels. So we've got 2 types of white blood cells, or leukocytes. We've got the granulocytes and the agranulocytes. Under the granulocytes, we've got the neutrophils, the eosinophils, and the basophils. The neutrophils kills bacteria, and then the eosinophils kills parasitic worms. The basophils attract other white blood cells. And then we also have the lymphocytes, which fight viruses and tumors, and they also give rise to the plasma cells. And lastly, we have the monocytes that become macrophages and they eat up intruders. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the blood diseases, alright? The disorders that are associated with the blood, okay? So I'll just mention two in this video, and the two diseases that I'll be mentioning will be anemia and hemophilia, alright? So firstly, what is anemia? Anemia is a disorder whereby there's a lack of red blood cells. Remember, in the previous section we did talk of the functions of the red blood cells, and we did mention that red blood cells produce oxygen for the body tissues, all right? They produce oxygen, or they give oxygen to the body tissues. Hence, if there's a lack of red blood cells, then that means that the body is not receiving enough oxygen. Hence, the symptoms of anemia is dizziness, drowsiness, and sweating a lot, and irregular heartbeat. Those are one of the symptoms that are associated with anemia. All right, and also one of the causes to anemia is having a lack of ions. All right, and you can cure anemia depending on what is the cause really of you having anemia, or of you having a lack of oxygen in your body, because sometimes it might be just you not having enough sleep. All right, so that is it for anemia. Now we move on to hemophilia. All right, hemophilia on the other hand is a genetic disorder. It is inherited, all right, and it is a disorder whereby blood does not clot properly, and if blood does not clot properly, then that means that when a blood vessel is injured, it will not heal in an usual way. All right, so as a result, if a blood vessel does not heal in a usual way, then that means that one of the symptoms of hemophilia is having deep bruises, bleeding continuously, finding blood in your urine or stool, and in infants you'll have unexplained irritability. All right, so those are one of the symptoms that is associated to hemophilia. And also about hemophilia is when there is a certain protein that is absent in the blood. All right, a certain protein. That is why it is genetic. It is a genetic disorder, because it got to do with proteins. All right, so that is all for hemophilia. Thank you for watching. I hope this was informative and straight to the point. And yes, see you next time.